Welcome back to DUBBZI Bricks for another episode of building the Tantive in Lego. In the last update, it was so satisfying. We managed to get so much done visually wise. Got all this greebling added to the side of the ship. We got that all tiled on the top. We made the two escape pods. Got the tiling and greebling done on the side of the build and also the very top there as well. So a big change visually from the previous update, which is always nice to see. To see massive chunks of progress being made is always so satisfying. Now in this update, I really would like to start work on the gun that's going on the top here. But before I can do that, I need to work on this part down here. I need to get this slope added back on there. And it would be good to get this part here where the wires are all sorted as well. As once that bit's done, I can then continue working on the paneling that goes on the side just there. With the gun that goes on the top here, the circle part does actually overlap this section, which is why I need to get that bit done as well. So that's what we're going to be starting off with in this update. So let's move this section out of the way, bring that to the front of the table, and let's get started. And here is the original panel that we need to put back in place on the top of the Tantive. And as you can see on the bottom here, we've got the Technic work and it's at an angle. This did originally clip in here somewhere, and I think there was another one down this end, which I've taken off. What I'm thinking now is about having the panel so it just rests in place here. So I put something there to stop it falling down, put something on the end to stop it moving this way. And what I was then considering doing is all the wires we've got here, I could then bring them back this way and have the power supply in this section just here. It'd be easy to get access to because all I need to do is lift that panel off and we've got the access we need. What I could also do as well, and this is one thing I hadn't thought about till today, is on the top here, I could build this up and put a wireless connector. The opposite part of the wireless connector would go on the gun section, which will be attached to this part here. That, in turn, will be connected to all the wires that light this section up. So that way, all of these lights, the power will be going through to this part here, and we've now got the power supply all sorted. Because at the moment, I haven't got anywhere to put the power on here, apart from in this section. And I don't particularly want to put it in there if I can help it, as I want to have the gun section fixed in place. And that's the wires all sorted out. So underneath here, we have got the wireless connector. So one part is on the white plate, the other part's on the bottom of the dark bluish grey. Wireless connector is connected up to this connector board just here. If you follow the wire down, it's connected to all of the lights, and then the power supply comes out of that board just there. So this wireless connector that's on the top here is connected to all of the lights that are inside this part of the vessel. And if we step down here, you can just see in the corridor, I've fallen over Darth Vader, but the lights are on in that part of the build. So as soon as I lift this section up here, the power would be apart from there. So just to give you an idea, if I lift that up and move that over to the side just fractionally, we have got the lights off. And then if we come back and lift it back over so it's in the correct spot again, and then when we come back down, there it is back on again. Wireless connectors are fantastic. I really can't praise them high enough. They just are a complete game changer. We've got two massive sections of the ship here, and the power's going through it without me actually clipping the wire together between the two halves. So if you haven't tried them already, I would highly recommend doing so. As I said, these are from Game of Bricks. They kindly send through the lights for my MOCs each month, and I'd highly recommend checking them out. So I'll leave a link in the description. And if you use the affiliate link or use the code DUBBZI, you get 25% off your order. And yeah, they are fantastic. This is just so cool. Anyway, that's enough with electrics. Let's now start building this section up around here so we can get that gun put on the top. And I've just been working on this end section of the ship here, giving it some additional strength. So I put some more support pillars in just on the end here. And I'll put some more snot bricks in as well. I've now put some more lift arms inside. So this top Technic section here is now connected to the one below. This one's connected to that one. That one's now connected to that one. So there's no way that this can now start splitting apart unless these lift arms were pushed that way away from the build, which won't happen. So yeah, happy I've now got enough strength in here. And we've now got enough snot bricks on the side here to attach the other panel. And I have already made that up. I made it up the same time as I did this one, as I always find it a lot easier if I build both sides at the same time so I know exactly how I've done it basically. So we can now get that all attached to the vessel. Once we've done so, we can finally start working on the gun on the top. And there we have the top circle all around, and I had to make a couple of amendments to the back section here. it was actually knocking on the plate that I had up the top there, so I've had to just modify that. I need to do the same around the other side. Now, in regards to the other side, this panel is just, the amount of times it's fallen off is ridiculous. I'm really struggling to push in on the connection points there without it breaking. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to actually go over to having this as a removable panel, or a panel that's just resting in place or just clips into place somehow. It's not worth continuing the way it is at the moment, and I do still need to modify the top part here so I can get it up a little bit closer to the very top, and also need to put another bracket in on there. But yeah, slowly but surely making progress. The one thing I know I'm going to have a lot of trouble with now is getting the neck shape that goes up here, as obviously it's circular, but it also goes uphill as well whilst going around. Now that I know is going to be really tough. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to move this section over there and just make sure that this part does sit on top of the other part of the build there, which in theory it should do. There's no reason why it shouldn't. And then once I've done that, I can then start trying to tackle that awkward shape that's going on the top. And I'm loving this view, seeing the two sections pushed together and seeing a lot of white on there as opposed to filler brick and filler plate is so satisfying. With this section here, looking at it, I feel like I actually probably need to stop about here and then start expanding the size of it, because it does start to come out this way as well as going up and down. I feel like I've made that section probably a little bit too long, just going as it is at the moment. Regarding the top section here, that sits on top of there perfectly. The connector cables are touching. However, I don't like this gap here, and unfortunately it's just under a stud, so I can't just extend this to 3 studs in height as opposed to 2. I am going to need to come up with another solution, and I think that solution is probably going to be to continue the slope up on here, because I do think that will then work out perfectly up to this part. In the center part, I will come up so far and then stop, as obviously I still need to have the connector board underneath there for the electrics. But at least we know we can solve that easily enough, because these are 2 separate sections. I can do it at any stage and it's not going to interfere with the rest of the build. And one thing leads to another, and we've realised we made a little bit of an error on our ship, so we'll go for that in a moment. But this is the part I now need to work out how I'm going to make. It's interesting seeing the light grey colour just there, so we will try and put that in as well, or we will put that in. It's going to be nice to add some different colours into the build up there. I'm thinking I may just make some rectangle pieces, have them sloped inwards. I might have to use some wedge pieces as well. The top bit of it though, the ring around there, I'm not sure how I'm going to achieve that, so that is going to be quite the challenge. The gun part of the top, that looks quite straightforward, style and build, so I'm really looking forward to making that. But this is the bit where I've actually made a mistake on. So on this one, as you can see, you start at the top of the roof section of this passage here, and then it comes down to the end of the sloped wing part, or whatever you want to class this as. Whereas on mine, my slope just comes to here, so it needs to actually come over there. So it's almost like I need to use a 45-degree slope going across. That is in turn going to start interfering with these panels just here. So this is something I am going to need to try and solve. It's either that or I'm just going to have to use creative license and leave it as it is. I think I might try and make a compromise with it, even if it's using a different slope. I could possibly just come to there and it's not going to interfere with those, but I do want to make this ship as accurate as possible. But anyway, let's get back to trying to work out how we're going to do this. What I think I will do, I'm just going to make one of these rings up and try and do the whole thing on the table rather than try and build it actually on the top here to start with. So let's start the prototyping and see how we get on. And this certainly is turned out to be quite a challenge. I've attached these 2 parts using ball joints, and although it could work, there's some really ugly gaps as you can see down here, and I just feel like I can do a better job possibly by doing it brick built. So I'm going to go over to the brick as opposed to the plate and tile and just see if we can come up with something that's going to be a little bit better than what this is at the moment. I just don't think I'm going to be able to fill these gaps in with the technique I'm using at the moment. The other thing as well is the top of this would be very ugly as well. I'm not getting the finish on there that I want, and I wouldn't be able to put tiles on the top of there either. So yeah, I think we're going to scrap this idea and go over to brick build. So let's get some bricks out, plates out, and every other bit that we need and see what we can come up with that way. And as you can see, we've used several ball joints to get this shape on the very top here, and relatively happy with how it's come out. It's a lot better than had I done it with plates, so definitely the right decision going the brick built route with this. And it is leaning in very slightly like it should be, which is all good. I'm just hoping that the ball joints don't get in the way of the gun, and I can't see too much of those once the gun's all in place. But I'm sure I can use some sort of technique, whether it's greebling or whatever, to cover up any parts I don't want to be visible once we've got that section all done. With this part here, there are a couple of gaps, and I was wondering about putting some brackets in on there, but again, it'll be more stuff sticking inside, so I could use a couple of these. I'll just show you what I mean by that. So there we have the brackets just below the slope, but then we've got a couple of studs exposed on the inside there. But again, that may work out well, as I could then put something on there greebling wise or added detail. So yeah, maybe I will go for it that way after all. But yeah, all in all, really pleased with how that's come out. Now we've got that section all completed, let's start turning our attention over to the cannons. And there we have the cannon on the top of the ship there. And how happy am I? Probably a 5 out of 10. It's just not good enough. It's not accurate enough. There are certain parts of it which just aren't working for me. And I think a lot of it was to do with the fact there were certain pieces I needed that I didn't have in my collection, or I couldn't find them. So I'm going to have a good search through the collection again. And I'm also going to order a few pieces in which I know that I need, such as there's some cone pieces I would like to have on the end of the guns here, which will make them look a little bit more accurate. The roof section on here is too high. It should be below this point here, going by the source material. And the reason it's that high is because I've got a minifigure in there with an interior. So it's due to his head, and when the helmet's on there, I needed it to be this high to enable that to work. So again, that's something that I'm going to have a look at to see if I can either lower him in there, or I will do away with having a minifigure on there. The front section there, I just used some artistic license, and I don't like that, how that's come out. But the biggest problem I've got at the moment are the ball joints. They're constantly in the way there. So I need to try and find a better technique for joining all of that together. So that's something that I will be working on in the future. Now, I do need to replicate this cannon here for the bottom of the ship. And that's going to be quite difficult in the way that it's going to be, the weight of it is going to want to make it drop off of the ship. This is very loose on here at the moment. You can pull it off so easily. It's only on there by a few jumper plates. So I have got to find a new technique for connecting it all together. Now the width of this part here is an odd number, so I can't just use a Technic brick or a Technic plate and then have the pin going through it. So this again is something I just need to work out how I'm going to go about doing it. There will be a simple way, it's just a case of putting that into practice. But it's been, although I'm not happy with the end result of it, it's still nice stepping back and seeing the ship looking like it is at the moment, and it's giving me a good idea of where I need to go forward with that part of the build. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, please remember to give us a big thumbs up. If you're watching on your mobile, if you could hit that hype button, it really does help others to discover the video and the channel. If you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing to the channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any future content on the channel. And if you know anybody else you think would be interested in building the Tantive in Lego, again, if you could share the channel with them, it would be much appreciated. Anyway, thanks for walking on by. Till next time, bye for now.